What's good, YouTube? Crown Jewel from Crown Jewel Boxing. Back with the gym. I saw a video today, podcast, where Devin Haney was discussing his upcoming fight with Regis Prograis. And he said the tickets are selling well. They sold 10,000 of the 16,000 tickets, if that's in fact true. I'm extremely happy for him. But hearing some of the other things he said about future opponent possibilities, namely, the two main guys everybody want to see him fight, I was a little taken back by his answer. He doubled down on something that I think he was ill-advised to say before, and he kind of doubled down on it again. I think it's going to make it kind of hard for those in Haney Nation, which he does have some very strong followers. Like I think he's a great, talented young fighter as well. I'm just not willing to blindly follow or agree with everything he does, because some of the moves I don't agree with, quite frankly. But he said, he was asked about Gervonta Tank Davis, and he said again, the fight would have to happen at 140. Okay, that would be fine if Devin actually said, because I'm no longer fighting at 135. But he went right behind that again and doubled down and said, but I will fight at 135 for the right fight. I will come back down for the right fight. But Tank has to come up to fight me if he wants to make the money, which is hilarious because we all know factually Tank is the bigger star. He would be the clear A side. He makes more money. He did 10 times Devin's pay-per-view numbers. I think 5 or 6 times his gate. Devin's biggest fight was in Tank's last fight's Overflow Arena, where they had the closed circuit at, inside a casino arena when Tank fought in an NBA-sized arena. You just say he doesn't want that fight. It's no way he wants the fight if he's saying he'll go to 135 for the right fight, but he won't do it for Tank. And in the same conversation, he says Tank is the biggest fight in the fight everybody wants to see, with Shakur being a close second. So what fight would be more right than the fight in your eyes that is the biggest fight, the most attractive fight, and the fight everybody wants to see? What other fight, and undoubtedly would be the biggest money fight, the most money you would make? So what is your criteria for going back down to 135? And what would make that worth your while? If the biggest fight, the most lucrative fight, the most legacy-defining fight is Gervonta Tank Davis, and he's required to come to 140, I'm wondering what the right fight is that will make you go to 135. Does it have to be an easy enough fight to go to 135? Is that what you're saying? Tank is so difficult that you want him to move up out of his weight class? So do you have an advantage? Because I would think the right fight would mean the most lucrative fight, because it's prize fighting. So the biggest money fight would normally cause you to do some things that you might not be willing to negotiate or do, because it's the big money fight. But you admit it's the biggest money fight. You admit it's the fight everybody wants to see. But it wouldn't be right enough for you to come back down to 135. But there are lesser fights at 135 that could potentially be the right fight for you to come back down. I wish he would just come out and either say, I'm not coming back to 135, or I don't want to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. And his excuse, well, he fought at 140 before, so it shouldn't matter. Well, he fought at 140 once, and he hasn't been back up there since. And actually came out and said 2-3 fights ago he wasn't comfortable at 140. And most people who've boxed know there's a difference in gaining weight. Everybody reaches a point where it's a boxing turn. They say, well, can he carry that weight? Even though he won the fight, obviously he doesn't feel like he can carry the weight. Can he move the same at that weight? Does he have the same athletic ability at that weight? Does he have the same timing and speed at that weight? He thinks not. He said he's uncomfortable there. So why would he, as the A side, have to curtail to you and come up to your weight just because he had done it before in an experimental fight to get a belt and realized it wasn't for him? Why would he have to fight where you're comfortable at? If he's the A side and he brings you your biggest fight and your biggest payday. I wish he would just come out and say, listen, I'm not fighting Tank Davis. I don't want to. And admit you didn't want to fight Shakur too, because that narrative Shakur just wanted to push me out of position and fight for a vacant belt. He can't fight for a vacant belt if you didn't vacate it. You were given, I think, 9 days extension to let the WBC know whether you wanted to fight for a 140-pound title or defend your 135-pound title. You chose to fight for a 140-pound title, so how did he force you out of position? You just failed to make your mandatory defense. You was given a choice. Make your mandatory defense or become Regis's mandatory. You chose Regis, so he didn't force you out of position. He forced you into a decision, and the decision you made was the exit stage left. That's just the reality. Jersey, stand up. My fellow African brother, black and Puerto Rican, Shakur Stevenson, is the boogeyman. You don't want him. Your moves say you don't want him. So those two narratives where somehow your fans keep running with, and some media on YouTube is running with, that Tank and Shakur are actually ducking you, when these things you're saying and doing, to me, prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you don't want those fights. Because as the clear B-side, you understand business, right? You have your own promoter's license, right? You partner with promoters. You're not just a regular fighter, right? So you really understand business. So you understand A-side, B-side. Because in all your fights to this point, besides the first George Kambosos fight, you've been the A-side. And you know Tank, clearly, by the numbers, is the clear A-side. So your argument with Shakur Stevenson is that you earned the fact at the A side to offer him what you offered him and he could take it or leave it, and you justified it by saying Floyd did it to Andre Berto, although Andre Berto wasn't an undefeated champ at the time he fought Floyd and was coming off a loss, from what I understand, had already lost to the likes of Victor Ortiz, so you can never compare that to an Olympic gold medalist, young undefeated two-division champion who's a mandatory. Those two don't go together at all. But you made it clear that you didn't want to fight this man. And your excuse, he just wanted to fight for a vacant belt? How did he want to fight for a vacant belt if he petitioned to become your mandatory? And you made a choice to go and fight Regis and not satisfy your mandatory. That was your decision. And you can't convince me that the Regis fight is a bigger money fight than Shakur. I think you guys' history, the way he's been going back and forth with your dad, he's much more talkative, much more social media savvy than Regis. I think the bigger money fight would have been Shakur. So, I mean, these narratives he had for these two fights, just, I can't see his angle where he can feel like that they're ducking him, or he can even make it seem like they're ducking him, when obviously he's the one that don't want the fight. And you know what? He has an easy out, a very easy out. And I would say nothing about it if he went this route. I can't make 135. I'm a 140-pound fighter. Anybody who wants to fight me will have to come up and fight me at 140. If he take that stance, nobody can complain because he looks emaciated at 135 at the weigh-ins. There's no doubt about that. But it's he who petitioned to hold on to his titles. It's he who's saying he'll come back down to 135 for the right fight. It's he who's saying there won't be another 135-pound champion because he's not giving his belts up. So if that's the case, why are you giving up a belt? And why aren't you fighting this man? To me, you want your cake and eat it too. You're saying, I'm going to 140 to fight Regis because I think that was the easiest fight for me to take at this point, the easiest option I have right now. I want to keep my titles at 135 in case, God forbid, I lose. Or even if I win, I can find a soft oppositional choice at 135. And if that doesn't work and I win the 140-pound title, then I can stay up there and take the easiest option there. It seems like to me that's what you're doing. You're trying to line yourself up for, yes, to make some money, but not the biggest money, because we know Tank and Shakur are the biggest money. But to be able to put yourself in a position, I hate to say it, to avoid smoke. You want to have options. You chose not to fight Shakur. Now you're telling people he ducked you. Regis said he had to basically strong-arm you into a deal. You wanted to give him short money, all this craziness. He was saying he didn't feel like you wanted to fight. And then all of a sudden, after he has a lackluster performance, all of a sudden, 3 days before Tank gets out of jail, or 3 days after Tank gets out of jail, you guys all of a sudden have a deal. At first, he was saying, I'm not taking a fight. They're not offering me no money. I'm not fighting for no money. I know this is a big fight. I know my worth. and you weren't budging. I'm the A side, take it or leave it. Then all of a sudden, 3 days after Tank gets out, and with your only other option being defend your title against Shakur Stevenson, all of a sudden, you and Regis were able to negotiate real quick. So, I hate to call anybody a duck, especially somebody moving up to fight for a world title, so I won't. But I can say you can't make a case for either of those guys ducking you. And like I said, all roads point to me, you don't want those fights. Unless you're never fighting at 135 again. And if that's the case, then say that. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying I'll go back to 135, but not for him. Only for the right guy. But I also admit he's the biggest star. He makes the biggest fight, and I would make the most money. But he doesn't justify me losing 5 more pounds to fight. Somebody else would. Who might that be? You said that's the fight you want. What fight could be more righter? Unless it's worth depleting myself as somebody I know I can beat. But if there's a threat that I could be beat, he's got to come up to 140. Negotiations don't work that way, man. You like I said, you're the promoter. You run a business. You know the A side don't work that way. Your narrative about Shakur, when you said he should just took, what I offered because I earned that. Had that same energy when you the B side. You should just take whatever Tank offer you because he earned that. And that includes where the fight will take place weight-wise, where the fight will take place location-wise, lion's share of the purse. Everything runs with him. Why? He's the A side. So how are you drawing your line in the stand for a fight you say you want when you're the one that's asking him to give you an opportunity? That's like me telling somebody, hey, I need you to give me a ride to work. And if they say yes, I say, yeah, but you can only drive me on this street. You can only take this route. It doesn't go that way. You asking for the favor, bro. So when you asking for the favor, you say, yes, I would love an opportunity to fight Tank. I would prefer to fight B at 140, but I understand we have to negotiate that because he is the A side and he fights at 135. And most times the B side says when they're looking for a big money fight, one of the first things out of their mouth, I'm willing to go to his weight to do it. Terrence Crawford, I'm willing to go to 168 to fight Canelo. I don't need to catch weight. When the money's on the line, the other guy, the B side, is usually the one to say, listen, I'll fight at whatever weight he wants. I just want the fight. But not you, Devin. You want to tell the guy that you said is the biggest fight, the most lucrative fight, the legacy-defining fight, and the clear A side, you want to tell him if things ain't on your terms, the fight can't happen. But when you're in the A side, you rather drop a belt in a trash can than to not do everything on your side, on your way, because you're the A side. Where's the consistency in that? You got to do better. And I'm going to say this. Team Haney, like I said, I'm not your enemy. Y'all need to get Devin, the fighter, your commodity, some media training. Because there's certain things he just shouldn't be able to put in a position to say. Like, namely, what I've talked about here. Nobody should ever be able to get him to say, the biggest fight out there, the fight I really want, I have special requirements for. Like, he has to come up to another weight class to fight me. But if the right fight in his weight class presents itself in the form of anyone else, I'll go back down to his weight class for them, the lesser fights. But I won't do it for the biggest fight I could possibly make. Don't make sense to me. So, like I said, get this man some media training. Y'all might want to start scripting the questions they can ask you. I'm saying I'm not a fan of that, but, keep yourself out of trouble. Doesn't put you in a bad position with the public or you making yourself look. Because like I said, I think you're a great, very talented fighter, but I think the things you and your father say sometimes, it's not consistent in what you do, so that puts you in a tough spot. So I think they should get this young man some media training, and I think he should just be honest with himself and the sport. If you don't intend to go back down to 135, say that. Don't say I'll go back down to 135, but not for the biggest fight that could possibly be made at the 135. If there's a fight more right than the biggest fight that could possibly be made at 135, then I consider going back down. Like, you can't. And the A-side conversation where you felt like Shakur should just accept whatever you give him because you're the clear A side. And you don't want to accept whatever Tank gives you and he's the clear A side. Doesn't make sense. But I'm going to leave y'all with a couple special instructions I've been thinking about giving to y'all. Because I guess a lot of these actions don't happen because I haven't actually told you I want you to do it. So my boxing people out there, I need you to act like fighters. First thing I need y'all to do, when you click on the video, use your jab. Gotta have an educated jab. Gotta use that left hand. What do I mean by using your jab? Jab that like button for me. And after you jag that like button, make sure you throw that hook. What's the hook? Share the content. Help me to grow. Help me to grow. And what's the right hand? Well, once you guys help me become monetized, you'll be able to help me with that. Because once I'm monetized, I speak into existence. The straight right hand, that's going to be the Cash App. That's how you can contribute financially, is with the money shot. Straight right hand. So again, before y'all get out of here, use your jab, hit that like button, use your hook, share the content to help us grow. And in due time, very due time, you'll be able to use that right hand in the form of cash donations to the channel. That's all I have for y'all tonight. Until next time, keep your hands up, your chin down, your ass off the floor. Peace.